All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noelle. She's the community director here. So good to be with you all on a Saturday night. Welcome to all of you who are joining us online via Facebook or YouTube from your living room or kitchen or wherever you are hanging out. We're glad you're here and glad you're part of this community. Just to remind y'all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there is always one thing we don't do. Is it true, Darren? One thing we don't do. It's true.
Darren will preach.
And we say it together on the count of three, all four words. If you don't know them, you are going to know them soon. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame in this community, but some other good things are happening in this community. And Noelle's going to tell you all the good stuff.
Yeah. So if tonight's your first night here, welcome. We are so grateful to have you here. We have welcome bags for you. And inside it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community, a little bit about what Tammy and Wagon Coffee does. There is some fresh roasted Wagon Coffee in these welcome bags. And then also just some free swag. So please grab one. Get with a home team member. They were the people that were greeting you on the way in tonight. And they'll hook you up with a welcome bag. And just know that we're really grateful to have you tonight. We kicked off a book study last Tuesday, and Ryan's kicking off a 4-week series tonight on The Mountain Is You. So we're doing a 4-week book study and then a 4-week preaching series on The Mountain Is You. So the book study meets on Tuesdays from 6 to 7. Mickey and I are co-leading this. And I was sitting and I was at this book study this past Tuesday, and it dawned on me that it's just such a great open discussion that whether you're up on the reading or not, or have read the book at all or not, you're able to plug right in. And so if you're hesitant about it, or maybe you're not up on the reading, or maybe you read the book a while ago, come join us. We're in this back room. And the cafe's open. You can grab a cup of coffee. The Sober Souls meeting's right after at 7:30. It's just a really great time to be here at Free on Tuesday nights. So join us. We would love to have you.
And don't you wish our teachers would have said that in high school? Like, hey, you don't have to do the homework. Just come to class. You're welcome here.
I'm giving
We're
you
better
the
than high
answers
school.
to the test. Just take them and come hang out with us. Next up, on October 9th, we are inviting in Denver Police, and we are bridging our community with theirs. Can you believe that as recovering addicts, we are inviting police into Free? I never thought we'd be saying that. But the idea is for them to put a face to the Denver Police, and for us to kind of put a face to our organization and kind of bridge communities. So on October 9th, they will be here from 11 to 1. You can grab a cup of coffee. We'll be in the cafe space. But it's our second Faith in Blue event. So come
And that's
out.
this Monday.
It is.
This Monday.
Yep.
Come hang out.
From 11 to 1. And then last up, we are celebrating Halloween this year on, it'll be the 28th of October. That's that Saturday. So we're going to do a candy crawl in between services for the kiddos. We'll have different stations throughout Free, but we're encouraging costumes. So grab your costume, whether you're a child or not, and come hang out with us, and we'll have a candy crawl in between services. Do you know what you're going to be at?
I don't know what I'm going to be. I'm waiting for...
Have you prayed about it?
Tammy is going to tell me what I'm going to be.
You're a good husband.
I'm a good husband.
That's great. Well,
what are you going to be?
I can't tell you, but last year I was... Just know it's already planned, and it's going to be just as hilarious as last year. But
Holy guacamole.
Last year I was holy guacamole, and I made an avocado dress, and then I had a halo, so it was holy guacamole with the avocado dress. Some people think I'm funny. Okay, not you, though.
We'll see about that on Halloween, on the 28th. We'll tell you if you're funny.
Okay.
All right, y'all, the way we get started in this community is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We just save it for later. But we start with celebrating together. We believe that God joins with us in a celebration. Something profound happens when we celebrate together in community. So maybe you have a sobriety anniversary, or a baby, or a new job, or new home, whatever the new thing is, we want to celebrate it together. And so we take 3 minutes for this. If you're online, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments. We want to celebrate with you there. If you're here, Dara and Darren will pass around microphones. Do you all have microphones? Let me get you the other microphone. There we go. Tammy has one. Dara has one. Now Darren has one. So just raise up your hand. We'll take 3 minutes to celebrate together. This time is yours.
I'm Kai, and I have 204 days free of fentanyl.
Kai in the 200s. Congratulations. Someone is raising their hand for them. This is going to be good.
Hi, I'm Amber, and I am 96 days sober today.
Amber, 90 days sober, 96 days.
I'm Anne Marie, and I've got 4 years. I was sick with COVID last week when I celebrated my 4 years at home, but I'm definitely glad to be here and be sober.
Congratulations, Anne Marie. 4 years.
This is Paul. I entered my 5th year working for a church. It's also my longest single employment of my life, and I just turned 50. So that's kind of a milestone for me.
All right, we'll celebrate that, Paul. Congratulations. 5 years.
I'm Dara, and I'm celebrating being back at work full-time, back in surgery after coming out of my coma.
Yes, Dara, we'll celebrate that. So glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Jessica. This is my first time here, and I've got 18 days clean today.
Way to go, Jessica. 18 days. Welcome. Glad you're here.
I'm Reese, and I got 35 days sober.
35 days. Way to go, buddy. Congratulations. Anyone in the back? I can't really see y'all. I just know there's people back there. Anyone in the back? About to put you on the spot.
Hi, I'm Marianne. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm very excited because it'll be the first time since 2018 that my son will be able to be around to celebrate it with me. So.
All right. Congratulations. That's a big deal. "20 seconds left. Anyone else? Brian, did you have your hand up, or you were just pointing at someone? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Dara and Darren. Tammy's going to join me up here so we can join with our online people. Hi, Tammy.
Kavita.
Is your mic on? Yeah. Okay.
We have a celebration this week, yeah?
We do?
On Friday, Wagon Coffee will be 3.
3 years old already?
Yeah.
Way to go, Wagon Coffee. That was quick.
That was quick.
That's what happens when you start a business during a worldwide pandemic.
This is true.
It just goes fast.
And you have, kids on top of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Busy,
Well,
busy.
congratulations, Wagon Coffee. Shall we join our online people?
James says 173 days clean. Free has been a rock for my staying sober. Love you guys.
Way to
Nice
go,
job,
James. Proud of you, dude. Congratulations. Frank says, in detox past 12 days after a rough relapse. Please pray, and I'm praying for all. We're glad you're back on the wagon, Frank, and we're also praying for you, brother. Yeah.
And LG says thankful to be getting back on track, one day at a time.
That's right, buddy. Way to go, man. Jen says, I'm 4 years, 1 month sober today.
Amazing,
Way to
Jen.
go, Jen, on 4 years, 1 month.
That went fast too.
Yeah.
Ricky, my mom's passing date was on Thursday. I'm celebrating another year of me making good on my promise to her. 1,608 days free from my addiction. I love that.
Way to go, Ricky. Proud of you, man. Chad says, celebrating just a 203 days sober today and celebrating the beginning of a new restaurant. All right, Chad, way to go, dude. New things do happen in recovery.
And Johnny says, I recently got the opportunity to become a house manager for Authentic Recovery Services here in Denver. Yeah.
All
we
right,
love
Johnny.
Authentic.
Congratulations,
Thanks.
man. Were you going to say something?
I just said we love Authentic. They're doing good work.
Yes, they're doing amazing work.
Yeah.
It's good to have authentic people.
Bree and Kelly.
Yeah, Bree and Kelly. Bree and Kelly Mahana. Look them up. They're doing good stuff. All right, thank you, Tammy. All right, y'all. We are, as Noel said, we are starting a 4-week series on the book, The Mountain Is You. So that means we are in week 1.
Becoming a different you often seems impossible. But the only thing standing in your way is you and your self-sabotaging behavior. You're too afraid to act, too afraid to step onto a new path. You're mentally and spiritually stuck. What do you do when you feel lost? Do you know where you're headed? The new way is going to cost you the old way. The new life is going to cost you your old life.
So in the intro to her book, The Mountain Is You, Brianna Wiest writes this sentence. She says, "Your mountain is the block between you and the life you want to live. Facing it is also the only path to your freedom and becoming." And before I say anything else, I will just state that I totally agree with her when she wrote this sentence. Totally agree. She goes on to say that you are essentially your biggest obstacle. You are the mountain and you've got to overcome that thing. Totally agree with her. However, tonight I want to give the intro to the intro. Because as I was reading her work, I found myself asking lots of questions along the way. Like, what about when you don't even know what the mountain is? You can't name it or identify it. You know there's a thing there. You know it's holding you back, but you don't even know what it is. Because you're on this journey and you're filled with lots of questions and doubts and uncertainty and wandering. So we could start with a question tonight like this. What do you do when you feel lost? And did you know, in my 16 years of ministry, that is the number one question that gets asked. What do you do when you feel lost? And yes, people ask it in all sorts of ways. When I meet with individuals or couples or families, they have different words that they use to ask that question. But it almost always comes back to that question. What do you do when you feel lost? And I know in many religious settings, if you were to admit to religious leaders that you feel a bit lost in life, well, then you are looked at as something that needs to be fixed. We need to give you answers. You need to be found. But my brothers and sisters, what if your lostness isn't a bad thing? It isn't something to be fixed, that it's actually a really important part of the spiritual journey and the journey of what it means to be human. You know, I grew up in a religious culture in the Midwest that totally thrived on answers and categories of certainty. We used the Bible as an answer book. It just simply gave you all the answers to all of life's questions. The Bible for us was a rule book. It laid out the rules, and if you follow these rules, then that's going to be the thing that gets you into heaven when you die. We had the right answers. We knew the way. We had the right way, and therefore we created groups. We had insiders and outsiders, and it just so happened that we were always the insiders. And faith wasn't a journey. Faith was like an arrival. And again, it just so happened that we had arrived. And our goal was to help to get you to arrive so you could be like us. It was a religious system built on fear and sometimes hate. Fear the other and try to convince them to see it your way. Fear the political other, the religious other, the sexual orientation other. Fear them. Don't have a conversation with them. Don't try to learn from them. Just try to convince them to see it your way. And questioning God or questioning your faith wasn't okay. It was not welcomed. In fact, this was just a sign of weakness and a sign of disobedience. Why would you have questions when we have the answer book? If you felt lost, you needed to work really hard to be found. You were simply failing in your trust. And the truth is, for some of you, you were handed down a religious system that told you that questions and doubts and uncertainties and wandering wasn't okay. You just had to believe the thing that was handed to you, the thing that was given to you. And maybe you've held some of these things in for years because you were told somewhere along the way that what God wanted from you was your silent and compliant faithfulness. And is there anything really faithful about that? I gave my life to that religious system. You know, when I was 5 years old, I walked down the center aisle of that Baptist church that we were attending, and I tugged on a preacher's coat because, see, he had just given a sermon that literally just scared the hell out of me. He said that if you don't, for everyone who doesn't invite Jesus into their heart, well, then when they die, they go to hell forever, where they suffer forever and ever and ever. So what do you think I did as a 5-year-old? I'm going to march down the aisle. I tug on his coat. Preacher, will you help me get Jesus into my heart? Because I don't want to go to that place. And then as I got a little older, I became a leader in the Christian evangelical youth group that I was a part of. And then when I was 18, I graduated from high school, and I went to a small Bible school up in Michigan. I left my home state of Missouri, went to the state of Michigan, a place where I had never been prior to enrolling that day. And the mission, the goal of this little Bible school that I was a part of, well, their mission was to go into the unfounded tribes of the world. So it was to train us to go into these unfounded, most remote tribes in the world and save them, bring them our white Jesus. Because, of course, if they don't have our white Jesus, well, then when they die, they're going to go to hell forever and ever and ever, where they're going to be in a place of suffering. So we had to go save them. And some of you know that I only stayed there a semester because I was there for a month before tragedy really struck in my life and the life of our family. My brother was killed in a car accident where he was the drunk driver. He was one of us, battled this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction. And so what I did is I left that school and I came back home. I created a mess of things, created some chaos around me, and then I left Missouri again to come out to this beautiful state of Colorado. All I had was religion. It was the only thing I knew. And I wanted to finish my biblical studies degree, so I came out to a university here. Left there, came to live in Colorado. I gave my life to that religious system. But see, the problem is, by midway through college, I was filled with all kinds of questions and doubts and uncertainties and wandering, and I felt really lost. See, at that time in my life, by midway through college, particularly the end of college, I was leaving the religious fundamentalist system of my childhood. And it was really lonely, y'all. I lost friends, childhood friends. I lost mentors and leaders in my life that I at one time looked up to and respected, wanted to be like them. And by this time in my life, I had just experienced significant tragedy and loss, and addiction in my own life was taking off, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why I couldn't put down a drink, because that was never supposed to be me. That was my brother, who was 3 years older than me. That being an alcoholic was never supposed to be me. And stepping away from that religious system caused me a great deal of guilt and shame, because I kept wondering, am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it right? Am I going to be okay? When's the wrath going to come down? And the truth is, at that time in my life, God felt really distant. And see, when I got sober in 2013, there was a minute where I thought I had to look back at my decade-long addiction and count all those years as wasted years. I thought that was the faithful thing to do. And I have to tell y'all, I no longer see it that way. I don't see it that way because, see, your lostness is a vital part of the spiritual journey. In my lostness, and no, I did not have the words for this. I couldn't articulate it at the time. I can now. In my lostness, I was rediscovering God. I was finding God in new ways. And yes, I had to get sober to fully live into that. But that doesn't mean God stopped working in my life while I was an active alcoholic. God is still working even when we're making a mess of things. So what happened was, late in college, I took this course called Poetry and Psalms, because you all know about the Psalms. I mean, it's just an ancient collection of poems and prayers of people opening up their rib cage so their heart can breathe again. And I started reading these Psalms, rereading them. And I'm telling y'all, it was like it was the first time I had ever read them. And by this time in my life, I had read the scriptures cover to cover a few times. And when I came across these Psalms, like reading them for the first time, it was giving me permission to voice my questions, my doubts, my disillusion. And I was very disillusioned towards God and the church. Like I came across this Psalm, Psalm 6. The psalmist says, "Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am faint. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in deep anguish." I remember reading that and thinking, wait a minute, that's in the Bible? That's there? These God-following people were demonstrating publicly their honesty with their feelings and what they were going through? How about this one? Psalm 10. "Why, Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?" Wait a minute, that's in there too? People accusing God? Whew. Yeah, maybe you felt that. Maybe you've been there. Yeah, do you ever look around at like the political mess we're in, the mess that we've been in for quite some time now? And part of you just wants to like scream out, does any elected political official just care about the people anymore? Or maybe you see even what's happening as of recent, like today, war being declared in Israel and Palestine, and Israeli brothers and sisters and Palestinian brothers and sisters, mass casualties, and you're like, God, you seem a bit far off here. Or maybe you see the addiction rates in the community, in the recovery community, or the suicide rates, and it's like, yo, God, you seem a bit far off here. Or how about this psalm? I can't tell you how many times I've turned to this one over the years, and I remember reading it for the first time, and it blew my mind. Psalm 13, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts?" Man, when I read that in my 20s, it was like this poet was coming along, giving me the language for exactly how I felt. Everything I thought I knew about God in the world has been turned upside down, and this guy's like saying it out loud. Because the truth is, I come from a tradition of people who said things like this out loud. So you're feeling a bit lost on the God stuff, the spiritual stuff. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have all the answers packaged up in a nice, neat box with a little bow on top. Good. Good, because you do know faith doesn't function well in a box. Good. You see, when I got sober and into recovery, I started meeting, encountering a lot of people, my comrades, my people, who were standing at a distance from the God stuff. They were standing at a distance from the spiritual stuff. And what I kept seeing and still keep seeing is a lot of people in recovery have experienced some degree, not everyone of course, but a lot of people have experienced some degree of religious or spiritual trauma. And now you have this heightened awareness, this skepticism. And it's okay. You can keep it. Keep it, because see, here's what I know about this free community. We come here for different reasons, don't we? Yeah, we come for different reasons. Some of you come here because you're new in recovery. And you know that you are just barely hanging on, and you've got to surround yourself with people who actually get it, people who have been there. So you come with a deep sense of community. Others of you, you come for a deep sense of spiritual community. You know the value of journeying with other people through the spiritual. Good. Some of you are fine to talk about God. It doesn't bring up any ill feelings. You don't have much baggage with the God stuff. You're fine with it. And others of you, when I start talking about God up here, you're like, oh my goodness, Ryan, could we at least kiss first? I mean, can you just slow down a little bit? Why are we going so quickly? Some of you, when we talk about the scriptures, when I mention the Bible, some of you just, something goes off inside of you. It's like a trauma release. You have all kinds of baggage with this stuff. You've been hurt by it. Some of you are fine with it. Some of you, no baggage at all. You're just fine with it. But some of you know exactly what it's like to have it used against you as a weapon. And see, my hope is for us, for this community, when we gather in this place, we come together and for at least a moment, we lift up our celebrations. We lay down some burdens. We journey together in breaking the silence of addiction, becoming one, finding God together, finding a way to cut through the mess of the lies we're told of how separated we are and how divided we are, and that we don't have to believe the same thing together, but we can indeed walk together. And I know some of you hear it free. Some of you have been burned by religion. You don't really know what you believe anymore because you've just seen too much. You've seen too much doctrine. You've seen too much dogma, too many rules. You've seen too much homophobia. You've seen too many things that keep you and others, you and your friends, from belonging. And I know for some of you, free is an absolute last chance. You know, I just heard a guy say the other day that he was battling depression, and he walked into a church because, see, he was hoping to feel something. And he walked into the back, and he sat in one of the back rows. And he was fighting back tears, and he was holding his face down. His hands were covering his face, and he was hoping to feel something. He did feel something. A church leader came up behind him and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Sir, you have to take off your hat. Hats aren't allowed in the sanctuary." He got up, and he left. Yes, someone recently said that Free was the least churchy church they've ever been a part of. Yeah. I was like, thank you, God. Some people ask me, man, so wait a minute, you wear a hat to church? Like on the altar, the stage, you wear a hat on Saturday nights, you preach in a hat? Well, a backwards hat. And I don't always, but many Saturdays I wear a backwards hat. And the truth is, one of the reasons I do that is just simply because I like it. I think it's kind of cool. I like it. I wear a hat when I go out. I tried the flat bill hat. Some of y'all can rock those and you look good. You do you. I can't get used to the flat bill, so I do the baseball cap and put it backwards, and it works for me. One of the other reasons I wear a hat on Saturday nights is because it is a very simple reminder to me that people are sacred, not buildings. Like, people matter, not buildings, not the rules. So if you have big questions, deep doubts, if you feel a bit lost, it's okay. I want you to know you belong here. God isn't mad at you, but do allow me to make a suggestion. Because see, if you're an addict and alcoholic like me, I do suggest you find a higher power and know your God does not have to look like my God. But if you don't find a source greater than you, something outside of yourself, I don't know how recovery is ever going to work. I don't know how you're going to stay clean and sober. You know, at the end of Matthew's gospel, there's this great story. It's a story about Jesus rises from the dead, and then he goes and meets his disciples, his closest followers, his friends. He meets them on top of the mountain. And there's a beautiful verse right in the middle. And I remember when I reread it for the first time, I was like, how did I miss that? How would I miss this? So check it out. Here they are on top of a mountain, and this verse brings me all kinds of joy and comfort because, listen, when the disciples saw him, Jesus, they worshiped him, some doubted. It's like, that's my people. Some of you are like, yep, that's me. That's my people. That's my people. But if you're Matthew, this is written in Matthew's gospel. If you're Matthew, why would you tell the story this way? If you were trying to convince people that Jesus is who he said he was, why would you tell it like this? Why not just leave that second part out? Why, when the story gets to its peak, do you say, oh, and by the way, some of his own followers doubted him? Like, that's a total buzzkill, isn't it? Now, keep in mind that the New Testament is written in Greek. Really important Greek word for this word doubt. It's this word. Can we get it on screen? There it is. Distazo. Say distazo with me. Distazo literally translates as distance. We've talked about this word here before. Some of you might remember it. Standing at a distance. It means uncertainty, vacillating between which way to go. But still, it's terrible marketing on Matthew's part, isn't it? I mean, he did not consult his PR director before he went public with this thing. But what if it's not about that? What if it's more about the profound insight on what it means to be human? Some people, they just believe, and they're good with it. You know these people. Man, they don't ever ask bigger questions. They don't ever wrestle with their faith. They don't ever struggle. They just believe, and you're good with it. I used to get a resentment towards these people. And then other people, they stand at a distance, and they're not sure what to do with it. And what I love about this story is in this story, all of it belongs. Matthew is showing us what it means to be human. It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of the human experience, belief and doubt, certainty and uncertainty, moments when things are clear and moments when things are really muddy. And see, maybe you had a moment in your life that just caused you to ask all sorts of questions, caused you to go into all sorts of doubt and uncertainty and wondering. And maybe for you it was a tragedy that struck in your life, but maybe not. Maybe you just struck up a friendship with someone who is totally different than you. Or maybe you took a course or a class, or maybe you started reading different kinds of books. And it just had a way of everything you thought you knew about God, it just turned it upside down. Everything you thought you knew about the world, it turned upside down. And now you feel a bit lost. It's okay. It's okay. And notice in that question that I started with, what do you do when you feel lost? See, because sometimes you feel lost, but it's because you're actually exploring. You're actually searching, and you have this feeling. And yes, it can be so uncomfortable. It can be vulnerable. You're tired. You're exhausted. You have some doubt, distazo. You don't know which way to go. And I'll close with this. You know, earlier this summer, we took a little family trip to a place called Moab, Utah. Anyone been to Moab? Mm-hmm. Home of the Arches National Park. And we got to Moab that day, and we went into the park, and we were driving around. It was like 174 degrees that day and sunny. And we saw a sign that said, Delicate Arches Hike, 4 miles round trip. And Tammy and I, we thought, perfect. We're going to do the Delicate Arches hike. We get all the kids out of the car. We had our water, and we start to hike. And the sign told us that by the time you get to the end, you're going to see these stunning views of a natural stone arch that is 46 feet high, 32 feet wide. And so we start to hike. And about halfway through, well, we were a bit lost. Yeah, we didn't know which way to go. Because, see, if you've ever been there, the trail is not clearly marked. It's like wide open space. And the problem wasn't that there was no one there. It was actually packed full of people. But they were coming and going from all sorts of different directions, and we didn't know which way to go. And Tammy and I, at one point, we look behind us, and all 4 of our little kids are sitting on a rock. And they said, "We're done, Poppy. We're done. We're hungry, we're tired, it's hot out here, by this time it's 212 degrees, it's hot, can't we just go back to the car? Can't we just go back to the hotel and swim?" And Tammy and I are sitting with the kids, and finally some lady walks up. She was smiling from ear to ear. Something tells me she's never not had a day of smiling. She was the type of lady, not the type, she actually had it. She had a fanny pack on. Yeah, keep those people close. She had a fanny pack on, and I asked her, I said, "Hey, I think we're a little lost. We've been out here for a while. Do you know if we're anywhere close to the 46-foot high, 32-foot wide natural arch?" And she smiles even bigger. She says, "Oh my goodness." And she looks right at the kids, and she says, "You can't give up now. You guys are almost there, 5 more minutes. You just go around the corner, and you're going to see it. It's right there." And then she opens up her fanny pack, and she grabs snacks out, and she hands the kids a snack. And so they have this renewed energy. And so we got them up off that rock and we started walking. And 5 minutes later, we turned the corner and we saw this. The natural arch, 46 foot high, 32 feet wide. And we did it together as a family. And most of us were pretty stoked about that moment. There was one on the upper left that may not have been. So you feel a bit lost with the God stuff, the spiritual stuff. I'll leave you with this. You can be lost, but you do not have to be alone. It's why you have community. Find those people on the journey that will help sustain you along the way. Find the fanny pack ladies. Keep going. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, you'll be tired. You will be exhausted, but keep exploring, keep searching. You can have all your questions, all your doubts, all the tension, all the wandering, but whatever you do, don't close your heart. Keep going. God might be closer than you think. So what we're going to do now is hear a song by a band called Mumford & Sons. Anyone heard Mumford & Sons? Yes, thank you. 5 o'clock, they were like, who's that? Mumford & Sons. So Marcus Mumford is the lead singer of Mumford & Sons. Did you know this? He's the son of a preacher. What I love about their music is so much of their music is him working out his faith. So much of their music is him like working out the questions of his spiritual journey. So I thought y'all would enjoy this one. I love this song. It just nails it. This song is called Hopeless Wanderer. So take 5 minutes and reflect on your own journey, your own spiritual path, your own questions. This time is yours. it's a good one, huh? Now, if you want a little laugh, I didn't show this video just because I wanted to be able to see the lyrics. But you can watch the official music video. I don't know why they did it this way, but it's really funny. Jason Bateman is in it, if that tells you anything. But you can go YouTube that later and watch the official Hopeless Wander music video. Pretty good stuff. All right, y'all. If you're new with us tonight, you should know that every Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house. I am really excited for y'all to get the opportunity to have this conversation with my friend Kendra. Many of you will know Kendra because she's part of this community. You might have even seen her slinging coffee in the cafe. She also leads the Dharma Recovery Group on Thursday nights. She's a spiritual refugee, also in active recovery, and she's got quite a story around this stuff, and I wanted y'all to be able to be a part of this conversation. So help me welcome my friend Kendra to the living room. Great to have you back. See, I tell you, I'm always learning something from Kendra. We'll talk more about that, but she has a rubber band up here, and it's for like nerves.
On my wrist. By the end of the day, I have like 5 or 6.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you got to talk into the mic, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kendra, good to have you here for the second time tonight. Man, well, you guys get to be a part of it now. I was going to say you should have been here at 5. So good. But Kendra, let's just jump into. We have when we were meeting and talking about her story, we have a lot of similarities. Of course, not all of them, but you were raised in a particular religious tradition. You grew up in this religious culture. Tell us what it was like and what it was.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with this because I did in the last service, and I think it's important. So I experienced sexual abuse as a young girl between the ages of about 6 and 8. And I think in that moment, I felt this sense of I belong to the world, and the world could do whatever it wanted to me, like no autonomy to make my own choices, and that everyone else knew what was better for me than I knew for myself. So I grew up north of Spokane, Washington, in a little community called Elk. Chatteroy, no stoplights, very, very small, tight-knit community, mostly Mormon churches and evangelical Christian churches, and this isn't part of my parents. So I just want to say that I was in a pretty normal, just Christian church in my early childhood. But when my brothers and I became teenagers, we started going to a Pentecostal church called First Church of the Open Bible. And I don't know if any of you have ever had any experience with Pentecostal church, but it's very much like. Name it and claim it, speak in tongues, slain in the spirit, and very just hyper-religious kind of culture. And I was never taught to think for myself, right? You just believe the person that was sitting in the pulpit. You listen to everything that they said. You were never taught to ever question it. And so that was my experience with religion, and it worked, for me. I was very much like prayer at the flagpole, and I'd go street witnessing, and trying this idea of like getting other people saved, because I thought every other single person was wrong except for me. And I remember I had this Mormon girlfriend named Rachel, and it was like my mission to get Rachel saved. And I'd said some pretty harsh things like, if you don't get saved, you're going to go to hell. And I remember one time getting a phone. Her mom actually called my mom out of concern for that. And that's just how zealous I was. Like I really, that was like my rock and what I held to. And I was I was an athlete. I was a soccer player. That was my thing. It was my dream to always play professional soccer. I never thought I'd do anything else in the world, so I played on 3 different teams at one time. I even played, when I was a freshman, I played on the boys' team. So a lot of sports, and by the time I was a senior in high school, I had so many injuries. Just my knees and my ankles were really, really trashed, so I lost my scholarship, and I just became really, really lost. And at that point, I became really angry with God because I felt like here I was, serving you and doing everything right and never having sex, never drinking, no drugs. Like I didn't even see that stuff growing up. And I was like a good girl, that followed the rules. And so when my life kind of began to fall apart, I married people that asked me, for example, because I thought I was supposed to get married. I just didn't know who I was. I was lost. I was a hopeless wanderer, like it said in that song. That really hit me. I was lost. I was suffering. I really thought, I'm going to take control. Kendra's in charge. Like, I'm not going to let anyone, like, especially any kind of religion or anything, tell me what to do. So I had no faith. And just really, also, I think I was afraid of community. I didn't realize how much I didn't trust people, really, until I started becoming part of this community where I felt like I could trust you guys. I got to know Ryan and Tammy and some of the leadership on a personal level, and I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was, that I could talk about different ideas about who I thought God was or what God was, or bring my questions, and I wasn't going to get, like, shunned for that.
Yeah, we don't do shame, Kendra.
Yeah, we don't do shame.
During this time of what we might call lostness, is that when, like, addiction kind of came into your life? Is that when?
For sure. I started in slowly, drinking, which not until really kind of more in my mid to later 20s. But one of my first experiences with alcohol was on a Christian mission trip where I became pregnant by a pastor. And that was pretty devastating. And the shame of that, it was sort of like this scarlet letter situation, like Kendra Vanderep's pregnant, like we didn't even think she had sex, and that wasn't a situation where I wanted to have sex. So that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so I think just the only thing that I could do to stop these feelings of pain inside and anger inside of me was put some booze in my throat, or, I had an eating disorder before my addiction turned to alcohol. So it's like the eating disorder happened, and then it morphed into alcoholism and drug addiction, just anything I could get my hands on to just quiet the pain in the seeking, in the being lost.
Yeah. You had an experience you told me about with your brother being in the Pentecostal church and the anointing, just so people can get an image of this feeling of almost unworthiness, or like you as a woman didn't really matter. Your voice was taken. Yeah, for sure. I think growing up in the church, women were very be seen and not heard, look pretty and shut your mouth, and serve your man, and no position, women weren't in leadership or anything like that. And in the church we went to, we had these prayer revival meetings, and they were called prophets, and they would come in, and, these guys would come in and point you out and say, okay, you're important, you're called of God, and you're meant to go somewhere. And so I was sitting by my older brother, Chad, and I remember just going there, just really hoping that this minister would prophesy over my life, and that he would tell me, this is what you're supposed to do, and who you are, and what, just give me, kind of lay it out in my lostness. And it was toward the end of the service, and he pointed directly at my brother and said, you are called of God, and you are a man of God, and the life that you have in front of you is going to be amazing and incredible. And just sitting next to that, thinking, then I am nothing. He is everything, and I am nothing. And just the invalidation of that, and then just the anger, I think, that came, and the betrayal that came from that. And like you did, I started questioning it. None of this makes sense. And that, I think, led me to a journey of being lost for 10 years in my addiction. And, I would try to pray. I'd go into the rooms of recovery, and of AA specifically, and I had a really hard time separating out the God that they were the male version of God. And so I know you can have your own spiritual path, and you can find your own God, and it can be whatever you want it to be. But because my brain was so
grooved in that, like, this white guy in the sky that's supposed to tell me, you know, what to do. And I didn't have that belief system anymore. So prayer and finding a higher power was really, really hard for me. And I couldn't get sober. I couldn't stay sober. I ended up going to a place in Bowling Green, Kentucky called the Bridge to Recovery, which is for trauma and codependency. So it's not like a 30-day inpatient rehab thing. It's more for like the underlying issues. And I think being able to like face my life and not be disassociated from my trauma, and like to get in my body and look at my life and say, this is actually, all this really happened, Kendra. Yeah, this happened and this is your life. And to accept that and to be okay with that in an environment where people loved me was a game changer.
Yeah.
It was a game changer. And I think that's what opened my heart again, to be able to like find God or look for God, and what does that mean to me and where I see that today.
Yeah, and I want to say this. I said this last service. One of the reasons why Kendra is so important, and others like her are so important in this community is, you all hear me, I'm a 12-stepper. The 12 steps works for me. It was and is my path to recovery. But I also realize it's not everyone's path for recovery. It doesn't work for everyone, but don't let that be the thing that stops you from getting clean and sober. Find a path that works. There's other ways that do indeed work. Kendra does Dharma recovery, and I know you do other forms of recovery. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so we do Dharma recovery on Thursday nights, and this is what I think is cool about God, is because for me today, like, God shows up through people. Like, I could look at you guys and like, that's where I connect to God, because I see the love. And if I look at the circumstances in my life, like, there's no way I can deny this, that there's this power greater than me that is just this pure love that connects us all in our humanness. And I love that. And I don't see God as male or female. I just see God as love and experience it through people. So yeah, Recovery Dharma on Thursday nights at 7 we do. And I got to give a shout out to my friend Lauren, who's here tonight, because last May I was in Africa on a business trip and in a really, really rough situation. And I was calling home to people in recovery, and Lauren picked up the phone, you know, and I'm talking halfway across the whatever on another continent. And she told me later, and I didn't know this at the time, but Lauren had driven to my house and sat in front of my house and prayed for me. You know, and that's God. And that's just the most beautiful thing I think about recovery, is we're all in this together. And it takes all of us, and it takes all of our unique, you know, stories and differences, and there's no right or wrong way. And I think the Recovery Dharma meeting is amazing, and I love it. And the friends I've made there have been incredible. But I think also now I can go back to an AA meeting because I'm not so defensive, you know, like looking for what's wrong about everything, but I can relate to what's right, and I can look for the similarities. And so AA has saved my life. You know, women I've met in AA have helped to save my life, so I'm grateful for every program of recovery.
Yeah. And how do you describe, where is Kendra now? So I'm guessing Kendra does not say, I'm a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
But who is God to Kendra now? Where's the spiritual journey, the path, and now?
Yeah, so I think now I'm in a place of being, I think I swing a little bit further to the right, you know, like of this past religious experience. I've kind of went to like, I went back to college after I left the Bridge, because I felt like I was in a place where the therapists there, just the way that they were able to love me really changed my life and gave me the confidence to go back to school. And when I went back to school, the first class I took was Women in History. And I think I'm, in a sense, turning into like a radical feminist, you know, where I just believe in women and empowerment of women, and also that spirituality is all around me all the time if I choose to see it. Like, God is all around me all the time, and love is all around me all the time. But like I said, for me, it just shows up through you guys. It shows up through the people that I meet at the coffee shop. You know, I was saying in the last service that the really cool thing about working at Wagon Coffee is there's never a mean customer. like everyone is just so kind and so loving, and it's just awesome to hear stories and be part of this community.
Y'all don't screw that up tonight if you go get a latte, okay? Be nice. And Kendra, in closing, how do you look back at that period of that 10 years-ish of lostness and your religious upbringing? And because I think so much of our work is, at least my personal journey, was forgiving even that. And when I mean forgiving, I mean what we talked about last 2 weeks of letting go, and it's not controlling my life anymore. But what do you do with it all?
Yeah, I don't have resentment today towards any of that. I know so many other people experience this type of thing in their upbringing and with religion. And if I wouldn't have had that experience, I don't think it would have ever set me on the path to find an authentic relationship with a higher power. I think, even though I thought that was authentic at the time, anytime we tell someone that they're, my way is the only right way and their way is wrong, that's not God and that's not love.
Yeah.
So.
Y'all see why I wanted you to hear from Kendra? Yeah, she's got something to say, doesn't she? Are you going to stick around for a few minutes afterwards?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Okay. If you want to connect more with Kendra and ask her some questions, she'll be sticking around. Get to know Kendra. Stop by the coffee shop sometime and see her. And go to the Dharma recovery meeting on Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday nights at 7. We'd love to have you guys. We meditate. It's just beautiful group meditation, and I love that meeting. So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kendra. Thank you, Kendra. So good. You left your rubber band. Should I keep it for my anxiety? All right. Y'all, the way we close things on a Saturday night is with, because I told you we saved the hard stuff for the end. We call them heartaches. And it's the reminder to us that we don't have to carry heartaches, burdens, the hard stuff. We don't have to do it alone. It's why we have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you need some lifting up, some prayers, some encouragement along the way, well, we take 3 minutes for this. And you can just raise up your hand, and a microphone will be passed to you. If you're online, well, it's clearly not that camera because Bobby just took it off, so it must be the back camera. If you're online, just drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments, and we'll connect with you there. So we'll take 3 minutes, and this time, I need mic passers. Darren, can you be a mic passer again? And Dara, and Darren will again pass you a mic. We'll take 3 minutes. This time's yours.
Hi, my name is Kit. Recently, a very close friend of mine was hospitalized due to some mental health issues. I would just like y'all to uplift her during this time.
All right, lifting her up. Prayers for her. Thank you for sharing that with us, Kit.
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I would like to have everyone pray for my friend Albert. He's not an addict, but he has health issues, and I haven't heard from him since Thursday, and he's not answering his phone, and I have no other way to get a hold of him. He's not texting me back, and I'm really worried that he might be sick and in the hospital.
All right, we're lifting up Albert tonight. Prayers for Albert. Thank you for sharing that with us, Kevin. There's someone right in front of you there.
Hi, my name's Derek. About 2 weeks ago, I found out that a good friend of mine OD'd from fentanyl. And I've been holding all of her stuff at my house while she was in rehab. And tomorrow I have to go meet her mother and see her for the first time and return her belongings. And I'm just asking for the strength to do that.
Yeah. Prayers for you, Derek, during that time, and the family members and friends who are grieving that loss. Another fentanyl overdose.
Hello, my name's John. Just prayers for the situation in Israel. I know you had mentioned it earlier, but yeah, just prayers for them.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And again, for those of you that don't know, war was declared in Israel primarily involving Israel and Gaza. So, and if you know anything about the situation, it's very complex history. And so I would remind you to keep in your prayers our Palestinian brothers and sisters as well as our Israeli brothers and sisters. There's mass casualties everywhere, and it's some of you know we have a trip there planned with 20 of us going in April, and we'll have to see where things kind of land and pan out. But thank you for mentioning them. Prayers for them and all the grief. Prayers for peace. Anyone else? You got 10 seconds. You got one more. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Thank you, Darren and Dara, for being mic passers tonight. Dara, do you want to join me up here for online heartaches? I didn't ask anyone to volunteer for that before the service. So thank you for just stepping up. And it's so good to have you back in this community. Her debut, let's scoot over that way a little bit so we're in the light. Her debut was last week from being in a diabetic coma. Was that last 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And y'all, I said this a couple weeks ago. Doctors you were not expected to survive. And you had 3 categories that they said, there's no way she can make it. And so when we talk about miracles, living, breathing miracle right in front of us. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't plan on mentioning all that, but some people need to know. Yeah, you take the first one, and then I'll take the second.
From Jonathan O'Neill Barker, Pastor Ryan, will you pray for Sloan and her son, Grayson? She is having a hard time right now.
All right, ma'am. Prayers for Sloan and her son, Grayson, lifting them both up. Thank you for mentioning that, Jonathan. Glad you're here tonight. I got the head mic. Christy says, prayers for Jen's mom, who's dealing with some heart issues. Also for Jen to heal from dental surgery, for the pain to go away. Jen and Christy, prayers for you and everything that's happening in the family and with your mom and the dental surgery stuff. Prayers for both of you. So glad you guys are part of this community from North Carolina.
Becky Kennedy says, my brother is struggling and nobody knows where he is now. Please pray for him and his safety and healing.
Yeah, Becky, prayers for your brother, the heaviness. Roger, whom I talked to not too long ago this afternoon, please lift up my daughter in your prayers. Roger, we are praying for your family. And Kayla, we're so glad you're part of this community and your whole family. And recovery's worth it. You can get back on. It's a good deal. Prayers for you guys. Thank you, Dara, for joining me up here. All right, y'all. I say it every week. We are very appreciative of your generous giving in this community. And I always just say it really simply, without your giving, because we are funded from you, the people, without your giving, frankly, this community doesn't exist. So I know some of you have made that a sacrificial practice in your life. You've made it a spiritual practice in your life. Thank you for believing and seeing the importance of the mission of breaking the silence of addiction. And just to give you the brief reminder, we're in this capital campaign, our Home at Last campaign, for just 3 more weeks. It actually ends in October. So many, I think we are somewhere around 200 people who have given to that. So thank you for being a part of it. We're somewhere in a neighborhood of 870,000. And you know this building, so this campaign is to help us buy this building so we can have a permanent home. This is going to be our permanent home. Some of you know the importance of that. This building appraised at $3.77 million. We're able to get moved in, all in at $1.3 million. Actually, the purchase price is $1.15 million. And what that means is if we raise $900,000, which we're almost there, we're at like 870, I believe. If we raise $900,000, we take out a loan for, well, you all do the math. Is that $250,000? $250,000. And the goal is to, of course, do it debt-free, but we're going to buy the building regardless. It's just a matter of how much debt we take on. So, of course, the good news would be debt-free. But thank you for being a part of that. We still have a ways to go. So if you call this place home, if you see the value in the mission, if your life has been impacted by it, we encourage generous giving. If you give online like many of you do, be sure if you want to give to that campaign, you click the Home at Last button. Very important. If you want to give, just in a general sense of giving, there's a giving box here. Paul is lighting it up. There's a giving box just outside these doors. But I know many of y'all aren't the cash-carrying type people, so you give online. There's 3 ways to give online. You can download the free Spiritual Community app. It's free to download. It's got all the messages and content and guest storytellers on there. You can give one time, monthly, weekly, however you want to do it. Again, if you want to make it to the campaign, click on the Home at Last button. For the website, you could do the same thing, freespiritualcommunity.com, or text the number on your screen. It walks you through a very simple set of instructions. And truly, I hope you all know this, your generous giving helps continue and grow the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, not just here in the Denver community, but across the country. Thank you for being a part of it. And if you have any questions around any of that, please don't hesitate to talk to me. Reach out. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah, I invite you to open up your hands. You don't have to, of course, but if you want to, it's a sign of openness that you're open to Spirit moving in your midst, breathing life in you, through you, and all around you. That God is always at work, and you're open to that. And if you don't know this serenity prayer, it'll be on your screen, and it goes like this. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, lots of grace and peace to you this week. We'll see you next time.